Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to day 112 of the Free to Hope presents the 12 steps applied to COVID-19. Yes, FREE stands for From Recovery, Emerge, Empowered. To do what? To give hope to others, help others prosper equally. The 12 steps are modeled after the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, established and created over 80 plus years ago. No, I do not represent Alcoholics Anonymous, but I've been a proud and grateful, humble member for over 31 years, but one day at a time. And so when we apply these 12 spiritual principles, right, to what we are going through now, the COVID-19 pandemic, we will, we must stop the perpetuation of its effect, its outcome, its impact, and its fatalities. Yes, so as you can see, I and 7 members of my family have survived COVID-19 for 112 days by applying these 12 spiritual principles to the simple suggestions of the CDC of wearing a mask, washing our hands, social distancing, contact tracing, getting tested, and getting vaccinated. It says in our 12-step program, all human beings are ill to some extent, but all human beings can benefit from the wisdom of the 12 steps that are spiritual in nature, that we can apply to any and all physical conditions, even COVID-19. But before we go any further, we want to acknowledge the Creator who breathed life into you this morning, breathed life into me this morning, woke you up this morning, woke me up this morning for day 112 in this new day. New day, and it can be a happy new day. Why? Because He woke us up and He breathed life into us, and it is our choice to make it a happy day. So let's give Him the honor, the praise, and the acknowledgement, while at the same time giving homage to the entire human race as we simultaneously go through this COVID-19 pandemic and its variants. So 30 seconds in a moment of silence just to give homage and acknowledgement. Join me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. On behalf of my Creator and on behalf of the entire human race, let me say thank you. Edwina B, in this recovery conversation on applying the 12 spiritual steps to COVID-19. And as I stated, we can utilize the 12 steps to help us achieve a psychic change in order to apply them to the CDC simple suggestions of washing your hands, wearing a mask, social distancing, contact tracing, getting tested, and getting vaccinated. Yes, as a result of an article by Dr. Scott T. Allison back on March the 31st of 2020, he wrote in Psychology Today, we as a human race can benefit from the wisdom of the 12-step programs during the month of April of 2020. Now we are embarking on April a year later. And this pandemic is taking names and kicking butts It's close to 600,000 deaths as a result of this pandemic. Why? It's because people like you and like me are not doing what is necessary to change our lives and change the lives of others. And we can, if we start with you and I start with me by being a part of the solution and not a part of the problem, of being defiant, of being resistant, of being egotistical, of being stubborn, of being self centered, having that attitude of being invincible. Why that number is so high and it's going to get higher. But there is a solution, and they are in the 12 steps if we simply apply them to the CDC's simple suggestions. So, as of April the 1st of 2020, after reading that article by Dr. Allison, I hit that button through the spirit that says, go live, Edwina. Share your 30 plus years of experience, strength, hope, and wisdom in applying these 12 spiritual principles in all your affairs so that you can touch one person, touch one family, so that they too can be set free from recovery, emerge empowered to give hope to others, help others prosper equally during this pandemic. That was just about a year ago. But in October, November, and December, me and 7 up to 9 of my family members contracted COVID-19 and infected one another. Yes, we did. I was a culprit because out of the 8 of us who had COVID-19, a couple more, later, but out of the 8 of us, only 2 had symptoms. And that was me and my 2-year-old grandson. And the others were asymptomatic. And so as a result of our Creator saving me and members of my family, as of December the 3rd, I sat before you sickly. I sat before you couldn't hardly breathe. I sat before you not able to taste to my fullest capacity, not able to smell to my fullest capacity. My entire body felt like a giant toothache. I was fatigued, but the Creator said, since you contributed to contracting COVID-19, since you infected members of your family, I want you to show them what COVID-19 looks like on you. But I'm going to spare you and your family so that you can use these 12 spiritual principles now, being that you had it all these years, to COVID-19 and taking the CDC's simple suggestions. Yes. So as of December the 3rd, please go to my podcast, which will be day 1 of me sitting before you transparent, not looking nothing like this. This is my homage to my royalty. The makeup that I have is for my tradition and my culture, because I got in touch with, if I don't begin with me and with my family, with my culture, then my community, then my city, then my state, then my country, then I am a part of the problem. But if I start with me and impact all those other areas, the solution is now within me. And I want to do the same for you. You don't believe me? Let me show you what COVID-19 looked like on me back in December the 3rd of 2020. Yes, that's me sitting before you with no dentures, no makeup, feeling fatigued, body felt like a giant toothache, could hardly breathe, could hardly taste, could hardly smell. But as you can see next to that picture, I began to recover one day at a time by applying these 12 spiritual principles to now we are in 112 day of being blessed to survive the devastating impacts of COVID-19. So much so, not only did we survive, and I, being the leader of my little small clan, right, I had to consider taking the vaccination shot, right? So, like many of you, I had the attitude of being invincible, not contracting COVID-19 and all that, being defiant, being rebellious, and taking COVID-19 for granted. Well, guess what? When they came up with the vaccination shot, I had some doubts too. So what I did was ask questions, listen to the data, listen to the news, did my own research, and I found out what? That if I take the COVID-19 vaccination, it will help decrease the severity of the symptoms should I contract it again. It will also decrease the possibility of me being hospitalized. And it will also decrease the possibility of me dying from COVID-19. Well, that was enough for me to say, all righty. I dispelled the rumors, did the homework. I weighed, the pros and cons. And guess what? I'm taking this shot. You don't believe me? Let me show you. This is my second shot of the Pfizer. Listen to what she says. Listen to what she says.
All right. Okay. Let's get you a little shot of hope here, my
Yes,
dear.
dear. Yes. Did you hear what she said? Let me give you a shot of hope. Hope. Yes. So it is our goal for every human being age appropriate as possible to get vaccinated. But we know that some of you will not because of your, I ain't going to say ignorance, because the information has been out there. Some of you just choose not to believe, choose to be defiant, choose to be rebellious, choose to take this COVID-19 for granted, choose to cause death than to sustain life. How selfish of us, how self-centered of us. But guess what? In our 12-step recovery program, they say some of us are just constitutionally incapable of being honest with ourselves. They are such unfortunates. They don't seem to be at fault. They seem to have been born that way. So that's why we have to include the entire human race, those who are being proactive, inactive, reactive, and responsible, those who are in the prevention, intervention, or restoration mode of COVID-19. That means each and every one of us fit in one of those categories. Which one do you sit in? Are you about contributing to the demise of the human race? Or are you about sustaining life? And not just life, but the quality of life. That's what we learned in our 12-step program. It's one thing to have quantity, but it's another thing to have quality. And with the vaccination shot, we can, to the best of our ability, live and have quality. If you go back to those who have lost loved ones to COVID-19, or those who are suffering from COVID-19 right now, those who are on their dying bed at this very moment right now, ask them, what would they do differently? And they will share with you the if I coulda, woulda, shouldas. That doesn't have to be you if you just listen to what we are talking about and applying and practicing these 12 spiritual principles, from a spiritual angle, and apply them to any and all physical conditions, even COVID-19. So I want to just encourage you to please listen. Listening implies action. Listen to learn and learn to listen. You can hear and it goes in one ear and out the other. But guess what? Put on, as a result of these steps, your spiritual glasses, your spiritual eyes, and listen with your spiritual ears so that you can be a part of the solution and no longer part of the problem. Because together, simultaneously and holistically, we can, we will, we must stop the perpetuation of this devastating pandemic. The Creator knows the beginning, the middle, and the end. It's not the first nor the last pandemic we will go through as a human race, but this particular time we have the solution, and the solutions are in the 12 steps. So let's get ready for our morning recovery conversation on these 12 steps. All right. So what I want to do, I mentioned Dr. Scott T. Allison, and I'm going to first acknowledge my sponsors. This information is free to the public, but our sponsors are solicited to help upgrade my equipment, to increase my platform, and hopefully, if it's God's will, become syndicated. Wouldn't that be nice, huh? Somebody said, Edwina, you should be syndicated. I said, listen, if God says okay, I'm ready, because he know I ain't ain't nothing shy about me. And I'm so glad that God uses broken, wounded, and shattered people like me and like you to rescue wounded, shattered, and broken people like you and like me. So if it's God's will that I become syndicated, the more we can save more lives. Yes. So let me acknowledge my sponsors. All right. And they are, let's see here. The first one is Free to Hope, as I mentioned, right? That is the from recovery, emerge empowered, to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. We have Patchwork Human Services, LLC, with Ebony Madry. She is about to expand her awesome services in touching and helping individuals and families achieve the holistic approach of quality living, not necessarily quantity. We have Levante and Dorsey and Associates, LLC. She too works specifically with children and family, making the two reunite in a holistic way so that they each can benefit from the knowledge of each other. So Levante and Dorsey and Associates. We have my dear friend, Dr. J. Macklin of Academy of Peace. Her and I are mourning but I'm going to say celebrating. No. We are celebrating the life of our dear friend, Dr. Mary Douglas Bailey of MDB Associates. We're not mourning because we all know where she is and what she's doing. And the most important, we are carrying on her legacy. So Dr. Mary Douglas Bailey, we salute you. So that's Academy of Peace with Dr. J. Macklin. And we have Crafty Crab Seafood Restaurant. Yes, they're one of my sponsors because they were able to host my 31st anniversary at their restaurant. I love seafood. Ask anybody. I have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, snacks, whatever. I love me some seafood. So attend and patronize Crafty Crab Seafood Restaurant. They practice the CDC's guidelines, as well as asking their patrons to do the same thing. Now, my next sponsor, newly received, is the 1212 Corporation. When y'all see me saying, I'm getting ready to go to my meeting. The meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous that I attend is located at the 1212 Corporation, which is a recovery safe haven for those in recovery from mental illness, substance abuse, or just a place to hang out with positive people, learn positive things. So please visit the 1212 Corporation here in Wilmington, Delaware. And if you ever want to see me in person, every morning at 7:30, you will find me at the 1212 Corporation attending my 12-step meeting. All right. So let's go to our remaining sponsors, which are Women Do Haul Transportation Services, right? And Mr. C's Barbershop is responsible for my crown. We have Morgan's of Delaware. As a matter of fact, this is one of her outfits that I am wearing. Morgan's of Delaware in Wilmington, Delaware. Some of my Afrocentric attire is from Lady T at Morgan's of Delaware. Then some of the jewelry that I wear is by Catherine Butler, jewelry by Catherine Butler. There's other there is other attires that I wear, and they come from Jones Accessory of Philadelphia. I tell you, boy, I put down the drug and picked up shopping. But guess what? I'm getting better with that too. All right. But visit Jones. I tune in at 4:30 to 4:45 to Morning Wake Up with Ambassador Tamika Strickland. If you ever want to hear something positive, if you want to be encouraged, if you want a word from the word, tune in to Ambassador Tamika Strickland on Morning Wake Up. All right. Then we have Divine Light Recovery Center and Supportive Housing. Dr. Carl John, Dr. Bob, and Bill W. had a meeting back in the 1930s, realized that the disease of alcoholism that is impacting and affecting so many people, that what we need is divine providence, divine intervention that will bring about a divine light. So who would have ever thought that I'll be directed to work for and still working for an organization that helps those with substance abuse, mental illness, and all its associated behaviors, as well as provide supportive housing for their participants. Divine Light. So they are my sponsors, and I ask that you patronize them and support me if you want to be a sponsor. One of the reasons why I spend so much time on acknowledging individuals and organizations who support me and our cause is because it's people and organizations like that we need to support, that we need to patronize, because what they're doing is putting back into the community one shape, form, or fashion, but in a positive way, in an encouraging way. And that's who I ask and solicit as sponsors. If you don't want to be a part of the solution, and you want to remain a part of the problem, thank you, but no thank you, okay? But if you are part of the solution and you want to help us become syndicated and increase our platform, please consider becoming a sponsor. I mentioned Dr. Scott T. Allison as the person back in March the 31st of 2020. These are my resources, right? So we have Dr. Scott T. Allison, and the article was entitled How We Can Achieve Wisdom of the 12-Step Programs That Can Help Us During the Month of April of 2020. Now we are embarking upon April 2021. So please get his article and look at the 7 points that he expresses and expound upon on the 7 points that he derived from the Al-Anon Anonymous group. Okay, so our next resource is Jason Waller. His breaking down of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. When I was searching through the internet to try to find a template, a synopsis, a narrative, an overview, a summary, God led me to Jason Waller. Yes, If you need to go to jasonwaller.com, you can extract and print the breaking down of the 12 steps to follow me and or to do them in the comfort of your home. So you may ask, Edwina, all right, what are the 12 steps? Now, I tell y'all that repetition is so important, but what I want to do now, instead of revealing the principles to you, I want to share with you day 6, part 2 of my earlier video presentation that was done on April the 6th of 2020, where I was talking about recovery principle number 4, while we are now talking about recovery principle number 8. The two of them go together, and you will see why. But right now, I just want you to enjoy a few minutes of my earlier podcast, and you can see the transformation. You can see how I didn't have a studio. Every corner of my house was a studio, right? And that's why having sponsors helped me to upgrade and present you the most professional view that I can. But if not, I'm going to listen, be transparent, and come to you just as I am. So listen to what I have to say just for a few minutes before we go back to recovery principle number 8. Here, I'm closing up on recovery principle number 4. All right? Okay. Because in my third recovery principle, I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. So I know He got me. But I need to get what's in here out on paper. Who, the cause, what feelings it generated, and the part that I played in it. And the more thorough I am in my 4th recovery principle, the sooner I can get better, the sooner I can heal. Yes. So, even though I had to get into more depth about the recovery principle number 4, you see why I needed to spend more time on it. Yes. Because unless we go back into our history, we go back as far as we can remember, we won't understand what happened to us. We will continuously saying what's wrong with us. But doing a searching and fearless moral inventory will help you to learn, like it did for me and thousands and millions of others, of what happened to us. You gain more understanding of what happened to you. Not giving fault, not blaming, none of that. Because we have a recovery principle for that. But just to thy own self be true. This is what happened. This is this is what it was. In hindsight, this is what I felt. Now that I know how I can identify my feelings now. Before, I couldn't identify what I was feeling. But in hindsight, and because of these recovery principles, I knew what I was feeling. And now I'm able to put an identification on it, to identify it. And this is the key, y'all. What part did I play in that? If it's just a mere fact of you being there, you being a part of that family. But there are some other parts we played in situations that we contributed to, yeah, that helped to develop the defects in our character. We played a part in that. And you have to admit that. You have to look yourself in the mirror and admit it. Because guess what? Who already knows? So, if you want to learn more about the template or the guides or the guidelines to do a searching and fearless moral inventory, inbox me. Make the comment. I can make it available to you. Better yet, I can suggest that you attend a 12-step program meeting, like I'll be attending in about 20 minutes. You can go to an open 12-step meeting to find out more about the 12-step program of whether it be Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Sex Anonymous, Love Anonymous. They are all modeled after the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And not just the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous, they have what they call Al-Anon, for people who are dealing with people who have addictions or alcoholism or overeaters. They have Al-Anon. And those 12-step use this, is the same 12 recovery principles that the person who has that affliction is using. But it keeps the focus on you and not them. I had to go to Al-Anon meetings for one of my husbands. But I went to my 12-step meetings for my alcoholism. During my recovery, my children went to Alateen. They're 12-step meetings for children. Yes. So that they can understand and keep the focus on their development as their mother or their father or their loved ones do their 12-step program. Right? They all use the same recovery principles, but it keeps the focus on you, on them, on her or him, all using the same recovery principles. Yes. So if you ever want to find out more about what I've been dealing with and going to and want to be a part of to the day I die, find an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Yes. Do your research on AA. Go to aa.org. Yes. This is why I'm able to present what I'm presenting to you now, as a result of keeping the focus on me, my recovery. I wanted my husband, one of the other husbands, to go to Al-Anon. He didn't think he needed the help. He thought I had the problem. But he had a problem because he had codependency issues. He was used to dealing with the alcoholic addict. So he took the focus off of him and how he needed to concentrate on him and put the blame and the focus all on me. Didn't work. My children got into Alateen. Yes. Okay? So that's why these 12 recovery principles are important and can help you go through any and everything and being prepared for what's yet to come. So that's all I wanted to do on recovery principle number 4 in more detail about how important that inventory is. And recovery principle number 5, I'm going to discuss it, not as lengthily. I'll probably get into it again tomorrow. But I wanted to give you the connection between recovery principle number 4 and recovery principle number 5. So recovery principle number 5 says we admit it to God of your understanding, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. You see what the first 2 words were? We. We're doing this together. We admit it like we did in the first step. I admit it. We admitted we were powerless over something and our lives had become unmanageable. Well, in recovery principle number 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature. So how are 4 and 5 related? So we suggest you do recovery principle number 4 without even thinking about recovery principle number 5. Stay in the lane. Because most of us like to read ahead to find out what's going on. No, there's a reason why these recovery principles are in order. And the reason why they are in order, because each of them provide the spiritual transformation that we need at that time that information in order to proceed forward. So once we have done that searching and fearless more inventory and was as thorough as we possibly can, and I suggest you use an ink pen when you do your inventory, because we don't want to erase nothing. Because when you erase something, you're projecting that somebody's going to see it. No, this is just for you. Put it all out there. Get it all out of you. Be true to yourself so you can begin the healing process. And there's times, as with myself, you'll be doing that inventory for the rest of your life because you may not recall everything at the time you do your first inventory. Years later, something may come up. Well, you continuously do that searching and fearless more inventory because, again, you don't want to give anything or anybody that much power ever again to make my life unmanageable, to steal my joy, to steal my peace, to steal my tranquility, to stop me from achieving my destiny. No, I'm not giving anything or anybody that much power ever again. So your inventory, which is why in recovery principle number 10, it says continue to take that inventory. And when we were wrong, properly admitted it. You see the connection? So let me get back to recovery principle number 5. We admitted to God, who knows everything anyway. He knows before, during, and after. And in the biblical Bible, it says he even knew us before we were even in the womb. We are spiritual beings encased in this physical body. We are human beings, twofold. We are human and we are spiritual beings. It's what spirits are you going to allow to operate through this vehicle? Before I got into recovery, this body contained a whole lot of unhealthy spirits. But now that I'm in recovery, this vehicle is operating more on positive, spiritual, productive, constructive, loving, caring spirits in this same vehicle. Isn't that nice? So we admitted to God, who already knows. We admitted to ourselves because we know what we did. We know what we said. But the importance of admitting it, you are getting it out of here and you are exposing it. It loses its power when you admit it. So admit it to God, you would say, well, God already knows. Why? God needs to know that you know, he know, you know that you know, he know that you know, he knows. So admit it to him. To ourselves, don't deny yourself. Tell yourself the truth. But here's the challenge one. To another human being, okay. Well, in recovery, we ask that when you select and identify the person you want to do recovery principle number 5 with, they already should have an understanding of why you're doing it and why you selected them. Because in recovery principle number 4, we take this inventory and we sit down with that other person, and together, with their help, they can help us to get to the exact nature of our wrongs, the exact nature of those character defects. So, give me a few more minutes, Cheryl. When I look at recovery principle number 5, and I'm working with my sponsor who I selected, I did my 5th step twice, and I got to tell you about that. But because of time, I'll get to the point. But remember I told you that I identified jealousy as a character defect in my searching and fearless more inventory. Jealous of my mom, jealous of my siblings, right? Okay? So in working with my sponsor, she helped me to identify that jealousy was masked by insecurity. It was masked by not measuring up, the exact nature. It was masked by being competitive. I'll show you, I can outdo you. Jealousy was the obvious defect, but what was the exact nature? Envy, selfishness. And guess what's at the bottom of most character defects? Can you guess what it is? Can't hear you. What'd you say? Fear. At the end of most character defects, once we get to the exact nature, we're going to find out that it was fear all along. Fear of not getting what we want, fear of not obtaining who we should be, fear of not moving ahead, fear of being judged, criticized. Fear is the exact nature of a lot of our character defects. And so the help of that individual that you select, you will while they share some of their experience too. See, it's a two-way street. Once you begin to allow them to help you unravel that onion that has been formed with all of these defects over the years, as far back as you can remember, that person, by admitting to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, is going to help you unravel that onion layer by layer by layer by layer by layer to get to the exact nature of that character defect. Let me give you another example. The resentment I had against my... I'm going to stop there. So a better understanding of why the spiritual principles are in order, and that each particular step has their own spiritual angle, and connecting them is a better way to see how our ability to transform spiritually, to have that spiritual experience, that spiritual awakening, and increase our spiritual maturity, which will help us to achieve that psychic change. Okay, so when I ended with recovery principle number 4, and we got to recovery principle number 5 and the exact nature of our wrongs, okay? But recovery principle number 4 is what we use to compose recovery principle number 8 list, where it says, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. So we want to conclude possibly today the remaining portions of recovery principle number 8. And we were on the questions that were posed by Jason Waller. And we covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. We stopped on the financial amends. And if you need to go to jasonwaller.com, please go there to extract the information. If you want to see how we broke down the questions prior to this session or conversation, please go back to my previous podcast. All right. So we stopped on, do you have amends to make that are financial and therefore you do not want to make them? I shared yesterday that I needed to make amends to IRS, among other financial agencies, but I picked IRS because of a specific reason. Now, when we are in our addiction, when we are going through what we're going through, and even what we're going through now with COVID-19, right? The pandemic, and how it is affecting and impacting our finances. And so what way, shape, form, or fashion can we be able to... Hi, you want to join me? Okay, that was my granddaughter, the one that planted the seed, if you will. You want to lay down here? Huh? Okay. Okay. All right. So I am doing my show, and you don't need to be asking me about no charger when I'm doing my show. All right. See? Huh? So that means you have to keep looking. But you know what? I addressed the issue, and she's going now, and I'll continue my show. Listen. What? That's what you got to do. That's what recovery does. Help you to address the issue right then and right there and be transparent. All right. So, even with the IRS and this pandemic, we don't know what we're going to file, how we're going to file all these changes that are being made, the help that we're getting, right? So, applying these 12 spiritual principles to our finances regarding if and how we should make those amends or make those corrections or report what is the truth to the IRS, then that's why I needed to do it in my recovery of alcoholism and drug addiction, right? Because I didn't pay taxes and I didn't file my tax returns. And so when it was discovered that I had got a job, after so many years of being jobless and unemployable because of my addiction and alcoholism, right? I filed my taxes and I was so excited about getting some money, right? Oh, wow. I think it was $256, right? Working for the City of Wilmington data entry clerk. Honey, listen, when I got, I'm expecting a check, I got a letter that said you owe $5,000. Huh? Oh my, what? Oh, $5,000. And recovery has taught us, because I've worked through steps 1 through 7, right? And now I am composing a list of the people and institutions and organizations I have caused harm to. So you better believe I needed to put the IRS on that list. And through the process of becoming to be willing to make amends to them all, yes. And when we get to step 9, I'm going to tell you how that happens. So, do you have amends to make that are financial and therefore you do not want to make them? That's okay. We're not asking you to make them right now. We're asking you to put that financial amends on the list. That's all we're asking you to do. We'll deal with making the amends later, all right? The next question was, can you imagine what your life would be like if you had already made these amends? I think about it for a minute. I do. Because it says, can you imagine what your life would be like if you had already made these amends? So when I think about it, I'm sure, right? A lot of time could have been productive instead of wasted. A lot of relationships could have been healed instead of lingering. I could have, obtained my spiritual freedom and gave hope to others. Yeah, I can imagine all I want, right? But giving you the opportunity to imagine what your life will be like if you made these amends to the individuals or organizations that you caused harm to, I caused harm to. Could you imagine the freedom we would experience, not just spiritually, but financially, emotionally, and the whole 9 yards? So, yes, imagine what your life would be like if you were willing to put the names of the people and the organizations of the and in the institutions that you have caused harm to in one shape, form, or fashion. Don't you want to be set free? Then put them on the list so that no longer has to be an imaginary process. It can be fulfilled in one way, shape, form, or fashion. All right. The last question is, do you have amends to people who have also harmed you? Do you have amends to people who have also harmed you? You know that saying that with every action there's a reaction. With every reaction, there's an action. So listen to what it says. Do you have amends to people who have also harmed you? But who are we focusing on? We are focusing on ourselves, the part that we played in it, whether we were in a reactionary mode or not. We know that the character defects clash. They said something, we said something back. They did something to us, we did something to them. They told on me, I told on them, right? Okay, so the point is, as a result of them causing harm, we caused harm to them too. So they too need to be put on the list. Do you have amends to people who have also harmed you? And the answer is yes. You see how freeing these steps can be, and how putting everybody, because the step says, made a list of all persons we had harmed. All persons. And we're not talking about the soap powder, all persons we had harmed, and became willing to make amends to them all in one shape, form, or fashion. And like we talked about, so we're not going to be able to finish, I don't think so, this last part, but we'll start it tomorrow, and then we'll start with recovery principle number 9, all right? And so we will see how making those columns, those that you are willing to make amends to, after placing yourself at the top of the list, because you don't know what forgiving, what patience, what tolerance, what all that is about, unless we apply it to ourselves first. And then I told you that the next person after me was my mother. Yes. And this is her birthday month, and her picture was on the screen. I'm going to show it to you again. But I placed my mother on that list too, because I caused so much harm to her in one way, shape, form, or fashion. But God saw fit for me to make amends to her in the most beautiful way possible. We'll talk about that next time, okay? So you had the column of I am willing to make amends to these people right now in institutions, right now, and I know. Then by the time you compose your maybe list, right, you put all those people down, and then you talk with your sponsor, and she said, well, listen, I ain't putting that person on the list. I ain't putting that. She said, no problem. Then make a column that says, I'm never going to make amends to these people. Guess what I did? Made the list, right? And so that's the beauty of it, just making the list, getting what's out of here and here, that you've been hiding, that you've been concealing, and you need to be set free. So put any and everybody on that list that is robbing you of your peace, that's making you walk with your head down, that allows you to want to avoid them, ignore them. No, put them on the list so you can be set free. Okay? So tomorrow it says here, finishing step 8 of COVID-19 Anonymous, because you know we've been using his template, Jason Waller, on Alcoholics Anonymous. So let me read what we're going to finish tomorrow, just to kind of plant the seed. There is a level of honesty in working the 12 steps that some members of COVID-19 Anonymous exult in because of the freedom it brings. The reason one of our slogans is happy, joyous, and free is because without being affected by COVID-19 in our lives, we have freedom to take a deep breath. I can breathe and exist in the day, relieved of that feeling of waiting for the other shoe to drop, the gig to be up, or the police to come knocking at your door, or the morgue, or what? Regarding COVID-19? No. Then it says, remember that it takes time to heal from traumas. Do you imagine what those people are going through, with the if I coulda, woulda, shouldas? It takes time, but time is an acronym that says this I must earn. Okay? as people dealing with, as human beings dealing with this COVID-19, we want to rush to the end result. No, 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 no. We have to practice the CDC suggestions. We're in it for the long haul. Yes, not the instant gratification, the long haul, okay? However, there is no prize for doing any of the steps as fast as you can. But regarding COVID-19, we want to practice those CDC suggestions as quickly as we can. Yes. Okay. All right. So remember this. Focus on a comprehensive 8-step list. Then let prayer and meditation, the time for forgiveness to come. When you forgive, you heal. When you let go, you grow. All right. So if it's God's will that we are reunited on day 113, we will be. And if he breathed life into you, breathe life into me, wake you up tomorrow, wake me up tomorrow, we will be reunited. But in the meantime, please practice the CDC suggestions of wearing a mask, washing your hands, social distancing, contact tracing, getting tested, and getting vaccinated. All right. So this moment, I want to dedicate just a few seconds to my mother. All right. So let me end by saying, my mother prayed for me. She had me on her mind. I'm so glad that my mother prayed for me. To God be the glory. Be safe, and be safe. All right, so let me put this up and show you about my mother. Okay.